Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back for another crafty venture. So all of my recent talk about the tinfoil panels got me jonesing to go ahead and give it a shot again. So I just have my regular old kitchen foil. Mine happens to be from Walmart. Then I have my rock, paper, scissors label sheets, and I'm just peeling the release paper off, and I'm going to use the whole sheet. And you use whatever sticker paper you want to use. You can even use cardstock. You can use double-sided adhesive. Doesn't matter what kind of tin foil you use. Different things will probably give you different results. So I would just say play. But I pull off, as you can see, just a relatively small sheet of foil. It's probably a foot square, and just adhere it down to my sticker paper. And any of those little bubbles that are remaining, don't worry about them. Just take a little pokey tool or a stick pin or anything like that, and just poke a tiny little hole in it and use your finger just to kind of buff out that air. Now, it's not going to go completely flat. I mean, like I said before, tin foil has a memory. So if it gets a crease in it, it just has a crease in it. You know, yeah, it'll just add to the character of your piece. So again, I just got all those bubbles out. I burnished it down really well to make sure it was adhered all over, and now I'm cutting off all those excess bits, and of course I just throw them away. Now that I have my full sheet, I want to kind of inspect it again, make sure I haven't missed any bubbles, and just kind of burnish them down some more. You can see where I actually poked them, and those are tiny little holes. But you don't want to make big holes because whatever your medium is can get up under there. So just be a little bit cautious about that. Don't sweat it, but also don't make gouging holes. So here I have my basket of embossing folders, and I'm pulling out a variety of ones, A, that please my eye, and B, that have different textures, different depths, some 3D, some not so much, different sizes, and different materials, just to play. That's what this is another play session. And I do have some intention, but I'm also just wondering what if and acting on the what if. So cutting down all my panels to the size that I need. Now I leave this in because it was super frustrating, and sometimes finding the right sandwich for your embossing folder is nearly impossible. So these folders from Spellbinders, they're old. I actually got them on clearance several years ago. I have this one and a beautiful one with a crow, and finding that right sandwich is nearly impossible. And I try, I don't even know, probably 10 different sandwiches back and forth and back and forth. And here I finally got this with some texture, but it's not very good. It doesn't ever fully get all of the detail, because those really, in my opinion, are the first 3D folders, because there are 3 different levels. Now this, of course, is one of the texture fades, and you can see that 3D texture and the dimension on that for sure. But if you have any of the Spellbinders ones and you use a big shot, let me know what your sandwich is, because that was a nightmare. I do go back and revisit that here before too much longer, and I use my Gemini Junior. But anyway, this one I'm actually debossing, and we get a completely different effect. And it looks like that line is very pronounced on the video. It's really not in person. And of course, just using a couple more embossing folders. This one from Stampin' Up!, the pumpkin from Simon Says Stamp from last year. The wreath is several years old. I'm not even sure if Stampin' Up! Carries it anymore. And here is... This is the one that I made, and I wasn't happy with it. So I actually found a good sandwich to run it through my Gemini Junior, and I'm very pleased with that. You can see all that grid work in the back. This is a very, very detailed embossing folder, and you can see all that detail in the second round of the embossing. So now is some more playtime. I know that acrylic paints will adhere to the foil, so that's pretty much what I'm using. I've got some Sparks paint there. That's from Stamperia. This is a product from Imagine Crafts. It's Neon Amplify. Of course, black isn't neon, but it is an acrylic product, so I know that it's going to stick. And it adds that depth and that dimension, and it gives it that metallic look that I'm looking for with the tin foil. And I'm just buffing it on. You can see I'm just buffing it on with a paper towel. I normally, in the past when I've done this, have used like foam brushes. I just don't have any right now. And I had a roll of paper towels next to me, so it was just very convenient. And so with this one, I decided I would pull out all of my, well, not all of my, but several of my distress paints. And I'm using Rusty Hinge on this one. Let me see, Wild Honey. And what is that other one? Is it Ripe Persimmon? I think it is Ripe Persimmon. Those are the three that I've used. And I'm just kind of buffing it on, if you will, kind of smudging and smushing. And remember, wet on wet blends. So you're not going to get those defined different colors. You're just not. Wet on wet is going to blend every time. I have different areas that are lighter, different areas that are darker, but they won't be defined different colors. And really, with this kind of product, you're really just trying to get something down into those crevices, because that's where your images become defined. And then I am using, that's not brushed corduroy, what is that one? Gathered Twigs, because I want to cover up some of that orange and just bring in some more of that vintagey look. And I just, again, buff it on, and I let, on both layers, I let it dry partially, and then I'm buffing it off. And then I wanted some more of the orange and some more of that kind of yellowy color, which is the Wild Honey. And so I just buffed those back on, just in certain spaces. And again, not looking for any kind of perfection. If you guys know me, perfection is only in my vocabulary to say perfectionism is overrated, or it's a fallacy. Or I often, if something turns out really well, I'll say perfect, but of course, nothing is ever perfect. But here I've got that amplify again, and just kind of squirting it direct to the paper. And I should learn, don't do it direct to the paper. Do it on the side and use a little more control. This one turns out okay. I like that it's more the silver and black up in the top right, and then as it kind of gradiates down to the bottom left, you get more of the oranges and the browns coming through, the rusts. It looks really good. Now, when I got to this one, I was listening and watching a paranormal podcast, and so I was preoccupied. And this one, I overwork it. I'm just going to tell you now, this one becomes a hot mess along the way. Just trying to buff in all those colors, get down in all those crevices and cracks and all those details. And like I said, this is a very, very detailed folder. And this one got all those details. It has the grid work in the back. It has all the scroll work. But I had to set it aside and let it dry. And this one I'm doing much the same thing. I'm only using, I think it's Lost Shadow on this one. No, Old Paper and Lost Shadow. And then this one is the Gathered Twigs and the Brushed Corduroy. And again, just buffing it on, just kind of blending the colors a little bit, trying to make sure that I get down into all the crevices, cover up all that silver. And then I wanted just a little bit of the rusty color. So I brought in the, which one is this? The Rusty Hinge. And again, just buffed it on just to have some areas that have like different tones. Hit it with a heat tool just to make sure that all the paint is dry. Now remember, these are acrylics. These are specifically distress paint acrylics, and they are permanent once they're dry. And so you see my nails, it has taken days to get it off my nails. And here I'm still listening to the podcast and not paying attention. This is also why I said I shouldn't go direct to paper, because I would have much more control if I dabbed it on or simply brushed it on or swiped it on with that paper towel versus trying to spread it around. Because at this point, I'm not trying to get it down into all the cracks and crevices. I'm just trying to hit those high points. And yeah, I'm just messing it up. So I hit it with a little bit of water. I decide I want to actually try to lift some of it. And so hit it with some more water. And yeah, I mean, if I had done it differently, I wouldn't have the outcome that I have, and I'm okay with the outcome. But, you know, living and learning. So here is where I'm actually putting my Amplify over on the side and just picking it up. Now you can use whatever acrylic paint you want to use, or whatever product you have that is going to work on a non-porous surface. right? Because not everything works on non-porous surfaces. The inks, the sprays really don't work so well because they have too much water content in them and they never fully dry. So here, this one, I was fully paying attention to what I was doing, and really it turns out so well. Now remember, this one is debossed, right? So I am loving the way this looks. I'm just lightly brushing that brushed corduroy over the top, and then I come in with the black again and brush it even more lightly. Not even brush, just kind of swipe it with that paper towel. I'm just picking up little tiny bits and just swiping. And really what it does is it just highlights all of that detail. And here I'm trying to do the same thing, just barely touching those raised surfaces with the black. And this one turns out really well. Now, anywhere along this process, y'all, you stop where you feel comfortable. Stop where you feel comfortable. But let me say, if you don't like it, you're probably just one layer away from perfection. And again, I use the word perfection lightly. You do what pleases your heart and just play. You know, play with intention, yes, but just play. Don't necessarily have an expectation in mind, because expectation versus reality, there's often a big clash, especially when it comes to creativity. Just let your creativity run. And see here, I thought, well, I love it with the black. Let me add some white. Let me bring some highlights, some brightness to these panels. And it just didn't work. Now, it might work in a different situation. It might work if I were more intentional to start, but it didn't work with these. So I'm going back over it with some fresh black, and it's looking very nice. I love the way that the black is hitting those raised surfaces and pulling out that detail. And yeah, this is starting to look like kind of what I had in mind. But again, I'm crafting with intention, because I do have kind of what I think it might look like, but I'm not devastated when it doesn't look that way. I just, okay, well, how do I move on from this point? And I love it. Look at that. It is dark, right? There's nothing bright about these two especially, but I'm not mad about them. You know, it was a process to get there. This one I think is absolutely gorgeous. I love the debossing. I may play with the debossing a little bit more in the future. This one I think is super cool. It looks like pewter. And this one as well. And I think what I might do with the wreath is fussy cut the inside and the outside. My only hesitation is that it's foil. You know, it's thin kitchen foil on masking paper, and it doesn't have a whole lot of I don't know, it's not strong, and so I'm not really sure. But anyway, here's a little bit of a close-up of each one. Again, please ignore my nails. They look awful, but they get clean over the week. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. Now my next video will be putting some of these into use. I have a little bit of an idea about what I might want to do, like I had mentioned, fussy cutting the wreath and things like that. I have kind of a Christmas idea going on with the larger panel that has the, what is the name of that paint? Aged mahogany. But we'll have to see. Again, I try to have a plan. I don't usually have a plan, but I am intuitive. I'm an intuitive crafter, if you will. And there are pros and cons to any way that we craft, but I just try to roll with it and show myself grace. But guys, this was my process for these foil panels, using mostly acrylic products this time, and I'm very pleased with the outcome. Y'all let me know what you think. Drop me a comment downstairs. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're not already, because you know I want you to come back, spend some more time with me. And until next time, guys, this has been Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Mwah! I'm out.